All right, folks, welcome back to Guitar Radio Show. Our next guest returns to us with a new record. It's called The Wolves Are Coming. And upon listening to it the first time, all the way through, because he had given us 3 singles prior, listening to it as a complete work, which I think is really important to do, I was left with certain words, and they were urgent, intense, gigantic, and poignant. This is such a great record, and I'm so psyched to talk to him about this record and the way he recorded it, under the circumstances in which he recorded it, how he recorded it, the feelings of recording this, because it's such a great record. Folks, please welcome back to Guitar Radio Show, Mr. Philip Sayce. How are you, sir?
Oh, Mark, that was a beautiful introduction. I'm feeling really good right now. It means a lot to me, and thank you for making room for me today.
Absolutely.
Very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the first thing that did come to my mind was, you're an urgent player anyway. Your playing is, kind of a grab you by the collar, listen to what I got to say because I've really got something to say. And I think that's really important in music, especially now when the world that we live in and the white noise out there in the world. So I appreciate that, and that's something that I'm drawn to is that sense of urgency. What was it like for you this time around? Because this time you recorded this record at home, you calling all the shots and doing your own thing, which can be so freeing, but at the same time incredibly daunting. How was that for you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It really came together. So the previous album came out during the pandemic, and the album was called Spirit Rising.
Yeah.
And right after that, it was sort of like, very bleak outlook for most of us, for all of us. What are we going to do? Especially for musicians, what is this going to look like? And so I started writing and also going through old song starts or songs that, there was just time to do that. There was no touring. I was at home. And songs started coming together based on what I was experiencing personally and what I was seeing going on around me and observing. And, I wasn't really sure if the music was going to ever be released. I think things were pretty fragmented and pretty hairy out there. And so I started, I would write a few songs, and if I thought any of them were worth exploring further, I called up my friend Mark Rains, who's a phenomenal engineer and producer here in Los Angeles, and just booked a couple days at a time. And, there was nobody else in the studio. It would just be him and I. And then my friend Mike Leisure would come in and play drums, who's an amazing drummer. And it would just be Mike and I in the live room, kind of hammer the song out a couple times and then be like, all right, buddy, see you later. And then I would start just trying to shape the song and see if it was going to be something worth keeping or not, as a way to stay buoyant during a time where everything kind of, everything went away. And even, when people were getting back to work, let's say 2022, when things were starting to, people said, oh, it's over now or whatever. It's not necessarily true in the music industry. Things are really turned upside down. A lot of venues were gone. A lot of record labels had cleared ship, had totally wiped out their whole team. And things look very different in the arts. And I think even to this day, here we are in 2024, things are still weird. Even when you're touring, the cost of touring is double, if not more. And, a lot of things to be considered. So ultimately, creating this music was a way to stay buoyant during a really just, what else do I do? Do I just, sit here and eat chips and just kind of fall into the hole? Or do I push myself to try to create something, whether it's for anybody else or if it's just for me? And so I'm thankful that music is such a gift in my life, and and really a vehicle for, it was a lifeline, a life raft during an unspeakable time.
Yeah. So when you, and I agree with you entirely. I mean, it was bizarre. And I remember doing similar things in that, while doing the show and talking to people who wanted to talk, and writing, and and I find that when I'm alone like that and with the material, sometimes I start to lose perspective of the material, and I'm like, is this any good? Is this? I mean, what am I thinking here? Is this? Did you have any moments like that? Did you feel like that, or?
I totally hear you. I think that's really insightful. Like when you're in, what do they call it, like an echo chamber or something? You're just kind of doing your own thing, and I appreciate what you're saying. Like, is this any good, or is this just, what is this? I have no idea. And I think I did experience that, and I think that's where some of the songs actually allowed themselves to come into fruition more through that process, where I was really feeling insecure or unsure. Sometimes it's better to listen to, I'll speak for myself, it's better for me to listen to my own intuition, and to really, I think through that experience, it allowed me to get in touch with what was really important to me. When there's other people telling you what you should do or shouldn't do, or what it needs to be, or that's good. I think when it's constructive criticism or constructive feedback, but constructive feedback is supportive, right?
Right.
Whereas I think in this industry that you and I are in, there's a lot of, it's not about making the art better. It's about commercializing. It's about, how do I turn this into something that makes more money, as opposed to something that's more connected to the source, right? The creator, the universe, the spark that's inside of me is the reason I've dedicated my life to music. So I think in some ways that quietness was a good thing, as scary and difficult as it was. And, some songs didn't make it. Some songs were like, well, that just kind of sucks. But other things were like, wow, like this loneliness and this not having somebody tell me what to do actually pushed me to find myself more than I maybe ever have before. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And it's funny because I actually have in my notes here, it's like, with this record, I guess because it's in so many respects it's introspective, I had written that your songs, your playing, you seem to be more wide open.
Oh, thank you.
So that was something that was really like hitting home for me, and that there are aspects of this record that seem like a concept piece, almost. From a lyrical standpoint, I think there's lyrics of, and there's messages of, starting new or ending and starting something new, and rebirth, and also warnings. It's really interesting. Like Backstabber, which was the third single, right? That was the third single, right? I'm correct, right? Yeah.
You are correct, and thank you for, man. You are on it.
That song is to me is a warning. It's I hear it as a warning to other musicians, other artists, other people who are who develop art, and let them know, hey, mind yourself, watch your back, check yourself, make sure that nobody's going to come and do anything to you that they shouldn't be doing. That was my takeaway.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that that's the takeaway, because really, it is. It's certainly a song that was written, at a dark time, for sure. That's why the song's kind of heavy and dark in that way. But also, it was a vehicle for healing and transforming resentments and pain and feeling, certainly isolated, but feeling burned by people intentionally, and in this business, and as they laugh about it. And what do you do with that when someone holds my lawyer always says, whoever holds the gold makes the rules, and it doesn't matter if you have a contract. Like, what are you going to do about it? If a mega company worth millions or billions fucks with you, what are you going to do about it? You're going to take them to court? No. It's, as an individual, you can't try to sue a corporation. It's not going to work. So what do you do with that when you've been violated in a way? And so for me, it was about trying to express that in the song. As a warning for anybody who's a creative, open, sensitive person. We don't always get it right. Sometimes you trust someone and they stab you in the back, and you move on.
That's the story of it all. I mean, that's steeped in the blues. Look at Jimmy Reed's Big Boss Man.
Right.
If you think about what happened to Little Richard in the Specialty Records contract, all of that, right? It's interesting that it never ends, but it does create amazing fodder for amazing songs.
Well, and hopefully it's good therapy too. But I think, that stuff is really toxic. And you mentioned those two just legendary artists, and we think about all of our heroes, the people that wrote the book, that wrote all of this stuff. Like I've heard Robin Trower even say, like, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Really, this book was written by these giants, and how much shit they had to deal with because of the color of their skin or because of the economic situation that they were in. Like, it's amazing, and it continues to this day.
Well, and I just recently heard about R. Kelly. He's dyslexic. He doesn't really know how to read. He's fairly illiterate, and he didn't know what he was signing when he signed it, and that's how we.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he doesn't have his publishing. So
shit.
Yeah. So where was his lawyer during all that? Is what I want to know. So, so it goes on and on and on. It happens everywhere. I'm sure it's happening to sculptors. You know what I mean? It's happening to painters. So,
dancers and all the creative people, and it happens to other people too, people that work at the factory. It's not, but I think it's something that people can relate to. And I think particularly in this, in these current times, it's interesting that, I didn't watch much of it, the State of the Union address last night, and then the sort of the response from the other side, and, all of this stuff, but just a lot of desperation, right? A lot of desperation. And I think this time of unease and desperation, and amongst other terrible things that are going on, in the world, it really creates, people do weird things when they're under that kind of pressure and that desperation. And so, I think I think we're all feeling the squeeze. And we're all feeling that the fact that groceries are three times as much as they were before the pandemic started. How does that? Why are rents suddenly double what they used to be? Like, it's a fascinating. Obviously, we don't need to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I think to circle back to the concept of backstabber, I think because things are so fragmented, people are willing to sometimes step away from their morals and scruples. And it's hard when you're on the receiving end of it. It can be very, very traumatizing.
But what's really interesting too is and I've seen this throughout time, along with these swindles, these great rock and roll swindles, if you will. Is when this music is created to speak to that truth. It creates music for the people that creates a, for lack of a better term, a release valve. You know what I mean? It's we've talked about the blues, and that the blues, was the blues. Somebody's got the blues, but it makes you feel good at the same time. So a rock and blues song like Backstabber, or Babylon is Burning, is songs that ultimately lift you through that. That's the key, I think. I think that's what does it for me. It's like, yeah, I get the message, but it's lifting me and it and fuels me and gives me strength. Does that make sense?
That's very meaningful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's wild, you know. We came in on the song. We opened the episode with the song "Black Moon." I'm sorry, "The Moon Is Full," and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to get in the car, roll down the windows, and I've got to speed. I've got to drive fast for this."
All right.
Back in the day, we used to call that furniture breaking music.
I like that. Nice one.
You know, that sounds so good. Yeah. Break that chair. You know,
I love that.
It's just so good. It's totally get your yayas out. So,
thanks.
Was that a riff that was lying around for a while, or was that something that just like fell out of you?
So the Moon Is Full is a song that I've had a love affair with for a really long time, and it's written by Albert Collins, right?
Oh,
so Albert,
okay,
yeah, and it's on the album Showdown, which is like, you know, for me, a desert island album with Albert Collins, Johnny Copeland, and Robert Cray. And that's an album I've listened to inside and out, you know, maybe, I don't know, a lot, many times. It's one of my favorites.
This is a wildly different take on this song.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit different, and I think it just reflected the times that we recorded it in. But you know, Albert Collins, all three of those artists are three very influential artists for me, and you know, but Albert, you know, I love Albert, and that song always spoke to me from the first, you know, that and like Black Cat Bone on that record, and you know, The Dream. I mean, there's every song on that album I love. And The Moon Is Full is one that we started jamming live from the time I was about a teenager up until today. And I used to play it live with Jeff Healey when I was playing in his band. And Jeff would let me, you know, sing a couple during each show. And so a lot of times it would be either that or another Albert Collins tune or something else. And Jeff actually recorded a totally smoke and burning version of The Moon Is Full as well. And so, you know, that's been a song that's been part of my life for a long time. And it just felt like, hey, let's try it, you know. And we recorded it a couple of different times, a couple of different ways. You know, it's pretty hard to record a song by somebody that you admire so much, like Albert Collins. So, you know, just wanted to leave it as raw and as, you know, in the moment as possible. And, you know, Mike Glazier played some beautiful drums on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, you know, I played bass and guitar and sang, and that was it. We just kind of left it kind of what it sounded like in the studio.
It's phenomenal. I love it.
Thank you.
So another example of when I said earlier about you being wide open is the instrumental track, Intuition. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking about it. And I think, you know, what we were touching on earlier, what you were, you know, so on point talking about, you know, I think when you're creating something by yourself and you don't really have a lot of sounding boards, you just like, is this good? Is this like... And this was about finding my intuition for the first time in my life without looking externally for, you know, for someone to tell me whether it was good or not. And it was just like, it is what it is. This is just totally honest. And I think also learning to trust my intuition around in certain relationships with people. You know, I had, again, as we talked about, songs like Backstabber and things, had been working through a lot of violating experiences, and I think the song title just came from the idea of I have to really learn how to trust my gut. I have to look inside and really find it and listen to it, because we all have that. It's just there's so many distractions in the world, especially through social media, where we're constantly looking for approval from somebody else, you know, and it's like, fuck that. No, I got to get back away from that and get back to the reason that I want to learn and do this every day. And so the song is really an expression of that. And, I think the ending on the song is really abrupt. And obviously it takes a page out of Abbey Road and Beatles, I Want You, She's So Heavy, how that song just kind of ends.
Right.
And I've always thought that was so powerful. And the movement at that point is definitely Beatles inspired. But, I think that was the first song. I think that was the first solo that I had done. One of the first songs we had done going in the studio. And that was the first kind of like go for it guitar solo. And it was deep Pandemic. And I remember just the outro solo. It was like, yeah, that was it. Like leave all the warts on it, whatever. That's it. Just that was my heart crying out.
Yeah, this is the first time that I ever sat down to learn one of your songs. Was this one?
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So it was. It's so much fun to play, and gives you an opportunity to kind of do your own thing too, and it was great. It's fun to play. It's a beautiful melody. Yeah, I really. It struck me. That song really struck me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mark. That means a lot, man. Thank you. And, obviously, trying to close the album out with something, I like to try to have an instrumental, like so many of my favorite players, like Stevie Ray Vaughan would always have some kind of beautiful instrumental on the album somewhere, and so that was really the intention there.
Yeah, it's great. So the earworm on the album, the total earworm, is definitely Lady Love Divine, which was the second single, right? Was that the second single? Yeah.
Yeah, man, you are totally right. Thank you.
Man, what a great track. That is so, if radio actually existed.
Yeah.
This would be, this is a top 40 song right here, if radio existed.
Man, that's kind. That's very kind. Thank you. It's yeah, remember that thing?
Remember radio?
We were in rehearsal yesterday, and we were saying, like, do you even listen to radio? Like, we were all just having this conversation. No, I don't listen to radio.
No.
I listen to NPR or whatever.
Yeah,
news radio or
yeah.
classical radio. Yeah. But no, he listens to radio.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's tough.
It's like Robert Plant. Does anybody remember radio?
Yeah, right.
So I was when I saw you was it last year or was it the year before now? When were you at the Dallas Guitar Festival last? Was it last year? It was last year, right?
That was last year.
Okay, yeah.
Last spring.
Okay, it was last year. They start to all blend into each other.
Yeah, no kidding.
When I saw you there, that was the first time I saw you using a Paul Reed Smith guitar. And I was fascinated. Does Paul know you're using? Because I know Paul pretty well. Does he know that you're using the guitar?
That's awesome. He does know, and they're a great company and a great team over there.
They really are,
and they are making amazing instruments.
They really are. Yes,
I totally agree with you. I mean, like they are knocking it out of the park. And, I'm definitely like a vintage guitar guy. I love old guitars. I always have. I always will. I'm not looking to replace those. That being said, you could love a 60s GTO and you're a GTO guy. And every time you drive down the block, people hear it's like rumbling and, oh, yeah.
Right.
But you could also own like an incredible Ferrari, a 2024 Ferrari, like for that matter, like,
right.
You know what I mean? And as far as I'm concerned, they are making, some of the finest instruments on the market.
Right.
They're excellent.
Completely agree with you. I absolutely agree. I just got a 2408 and I am madly in love with it. And I thought to myself, with all the instruments I have, and I have way too many, with all the instruments I have, I thought to myself, if I had to just have one, if I had to have a desert island guitar, it would be that 2408 because it does all the things that all the other guitars do. essentially.
Wow.
You know, so it's wonderful. But and I found, you know, when the and I told Paul this, and he was very annoyed with me. But I when the Silver Sky first came out, I was like, oh, come on, really? What are we doing here? You know, and then because I saw it, and I was like, oh, you know, please. And then I played one, and I was like, oh no, it's a completely different animal than a Fender Strat. It's a completely different animal. And I hear the differences between, like, you know, you playing Mother or you playing your SG Junior, and then the black Silver Sky. And you know what's funny? The thing, when I saw you playing it, you know, black, it shows all the smudges, right? How can it not? Right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I thought to myself, wow, if anybody's going to look completely fucking bitching with a beat up Silver Sky, it's going to be Philip Sayce, because he's going to beat the shit out of that guitar.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, listen, I love that you're in love with your 2408, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was late to the PRS party. I mean, a friend of mine from Austin, Glenn. I don't know if you guys know each other. Glenn Armbruster. He's there, and he you know, he knows a lot of the cats in town. And actually, I met him in Dallas at the guitar show a number of years back, and you know, we've had struck up a friendship. And he was just saying, and another friend of mine from Toronto, lifelong friend. Both these guys said, listen, you got to play a Silver Sky. Like, I know you like old Strats. That's your thing. Great. Play the Silver Sky. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get around to it, you know. And you know, I mean, John Mayer's playing them. Obviously, it's his design with Paul, and he sounds great with them. And you know, so I was like, okay. So anyway, I finally went to the Paul Reed Smith showroom here in Burbank. And I brought my Super Reverb with me, just to, you know, because I wanted to give it a fair shake. And I brought my old Strats, and I tell you, Mark, I plugged in. They just had a few Silver Skies. I just grabbed one off the wall, and I was absolutely astounded. I was like, "Are you kidding me right now? Like, what? Why? What? Like, what's the problem here? What was I waiting for?" And it's not that it's better than the old ones, but it's another tool that I feel inspired to play and use, that's going to bring out different tones and different colors. That is reminiscent of what I know, but by no means trying to replace a 63 Strat. It's got a great neck shape. The pickups are wonderful. I just was, you know, I want to pick it up and play it. I don't know how else to say it.
No, I totally hear you. And you know, and the cool thing was, it did not, when I heard you play it the first time, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then you know, you sailed into the set, and I was like, sounds like Philip to me. And, you know, cool. So that's the cool thing too, right? I mean, it's that you don't lose yourself in it either, you know, but at the same time, it gives you, like what you said, it gives you different colors, different nuance. That's the thing, that's the thing that I've noticed now as I'm getting older, is that it's about textures, it's about sound, it's about colors, you know, and trying to find as many different tonal varieties as possible. And I think that's what you found with that.
And I agree with everything that you're saying. Finding those variations, as well as a sense of feeling inspired. You know, it could be the most slick guitar, and you play it, it's like, man, this sounds great. I don't know, man. It's not making my heart beat faster. Whereas this guitar, the more that I play it, it's like it finds your momentum and then rolls with your momentum as you're playing. That's my experience with it. So that's a sign of something that's a good fit for me.
That's cool.
Versus, you know, it could be something that it could be a 59 Les Paul, and it's a 300,000, and you're playing, I'm supposed to love this, but I don't. So I think it's just about sort of being honest, and I was really truly impressed, and continue to feel impressed, and honestly surprised, because I was like, maybe it's cool, you know, I don't know if that's for me or not. But then when I finally played it, couldn't breathe.
Well, like I said, you keep playing that thing the way you do, and it's gonna have that look eventually.
It's got a little different, like a little thicker finish, right? So it might take a little longer, but we'll get there.
That's okay. Yeah, you'll get there.
It's more. Hey, I got practice to do, so I just got to keep digging.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I saw that you were rehearsing. What was it, yesterday? Were you rehearsing yesterday?
Yeah. We were rehearsing this week. Yeah, we got a couple of shows coming up.
Yeah, you got
one of them tomorrow, and then
at the Potato.
We're kind of getting started.
Right. Yeah, you get the Potato tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you got the Potato. Was it April what? 10?
April 13th, I think it is, and then we go to Europe.
I have it right here. Yeah, April 13th, and then you head out to the Netherlands, May 11th, and then Germany. Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're going to be. Oh wow, you're going to be eating good too.
Well, yeah, I'm thankful for the opportunity to get over there and play.
Yeah,
because it's I was saying it's tricky, I think, for everybody, and in terms of the expense of getting over there and playing, and so I'm thankful for the opportunity, and just looking forward to just giving 100% of everything that I got.
Yeah, well, you always do. That's one thing. You leave it all on the stage. It's like. I think I said this to you once before. After one of your shows, I'm wondering, how does he not turn into just a little pile of dust after? How does he have any moisture left in his body after these shows?
Hey man, it's. I think I might have made this joke with you before, but it's like if you're lugging in heavy gear, you might as well give it all. Like if you're gonna. You know what I mean? It's like it's like I'm not going to show up and not play hard. That's the worst part is when you got to load your own gear.
That's true.
Oh, man.
That's the truth.
You better give it if you got to load that shit in.
Speaking of gear, has your rig changed a whole lot since last time we talked?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I'm continuing to use, for the most part, amps that are built by Tommy Cougar in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Who's just brilliant, and then as well I have some that's for new amps, Tommy Cougar amps, and then some vintage amps, which would be like 60s, like a Princeton amp that Cesar Diaz rebuilt, and a couple of super reverbs that Fender super reverbs that one of them Cesar Diaz had worked on, and another one that. Yeah, I actually worked on both of them. And then what else? I think that's it, basically. So pretty much the same kind of amps. Yeah. For new amps, Tommy amps, and then for old amps, a bunch of different Fenders.
So there's a really wonderfully prevalent octave fuzz that's happening here and there on the record, and it's just capturing my ear all the time. What is it that you're using there?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. So there's actually two different kinds of octave fuzzes that I was using. So one of them is a Chicago Iron Octavia. They made for a number of years a recreation of the Tycho Brahe Octavia. It's in the same kind of sort of powder blue enclosure, and they do a great job. And so that's been the main one that I've been using for a long time. And then I was using a pedal that is, the company is called WMD. And actually, while we're talking, I have to go find it because I can't remember exactly what. Yeah, WMD, that's the company. And it was something that, it's called the Geiger counter. And it's not always usable, but it's great. For me, it's not always usable, but it's great in certain little spots and recordings where you can kind of blend it with something or tuck it up in the corner, and it sounds like an 80s video game or something. It's like a really cool, weird octave, crunchy, just lo-fi kind of sound. And so I use that sometimes to just for a little bit of ear candy or whatever. So those are the two octave fuzzes that I'm using. Yeah,
octave fuzz is a thing that really catches my ear. I love it.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite octave fuzz?
It's crazy. Favorite? I was using the Billy Gibbons Ciante Santos for a little
I don't
while.
know that.
And it's an MXR thing. It's a Dunlop pedal. But you know what? You're going to think this is crazy, but the Fender came out with something called the Hammer Tone Fuzz, and it's a $65 fuzz, and the octave fuzz on it there's two switches. There's a switch for octave and non-octave, and the octave is, if it's dialed in just right, it's polyphonic, so you can play chords around it. And I love that. And I had tried the Lizard Queen by JHS and Electro Harmonics, but there's no way to control the volume per se on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's limited. So it's like you turn it on, and it's like, bombastic, and there's not an ability for nuance. It's all or nothing. Whereas the Fender is really, you can really dial in what you want when you want it. And I got it for $69 on Reverb. It was obscene. So I was like, this is amazing.
You can't even buy lunch for $69. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's awesome. So you said it's called the Hammer Tone?
The Hammer Tone, the Fender Hammer Tone Fuzz. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to look into this. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I use I use Vox amps. So, for me, it's, super clean platform, and I'm just blasting through those. It's great.
And in terms of the Vox amps, like AC30 or 15s or like in that world?
AC15s.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And just,
those sound so good.
Because the headroom is amazing. You can they're super clean. You can get them really loud. You play two of them together. It's heaven.
Oh, and this goes without saying, but man, the magic of the top end in those amps is just it's intoxicating.
Yeah, it is. You're right. That's a great way to put it.
So it's just like, I'll have more of that, please. Like, if all amps had that magic dust on top.
Absolutely. Nice. Absolutely. Let's get back to the record real quick. I want to ask you about another one of my favorite tracks that has, just heavy lyrics. Really, really good. It's Over Now.
Oh, yeah.
The progression, the chord progression on this is just lovely. And the notes that you chose are just so great. Everything just works perfectly with each other. Tell me about that. Tell me about that song. Tell me about all of it.
Thanks, Mark. That means a lot. Yeah, it's a real heavy song, and ultimately, it's about. It has a lot of meanings, but one of the meanings is really about navigating really difficult experiences, or a particular difficult experience, and maybe reflecting on it once you've crossed that turbulent river, once you've crossed that difficult time, and maybe you can look back on it, think about what you've learned from it, and what you've lost, and what you've gained, and all of it. Have a different perspective on the other side, and maybe some growth and some wisdom, and also acknowledging the pain and the hurt, of all of it, and growing is hard, right? There's growing pains. So it really reflects, I think, for me, part of my personal journey. And it's a song that I wrote with a gentleman named Nathan Crow, who has passed away. He's passed to the other side, but it's just a song that I always I don't know. I like the song, and it just kind of meant a lot to me. And so it just kind of made sense to try to record it and get it down and get it, to the best that I could. Like with any recording, you're always going to be like, man, if I could record it 10 more times, I might have. But I just did the best that I could with what I had available. And that's how it came out. And I think it's really, really raw and really urgent. And to use your words earlier, and just honest. And and I think, trying to take a page out of a couple of songs that really, a few songs really that meant a lot to me. Certainly a song like Life Without You by Stevie Ray Vaughan is always very, very powerful. And there's a song by Eric Clapton called River of Tears that always really moves me as well. And so some of the lead stuff in there it was like, well, what would Clapton play in the song River of Tears? Not like, oh, I want to try to lift that, but just the general feeling of his sort of melodic approach to playing. And so I think that was really where, some of the guitar playing came from on that. And just deeply grateful to have some truly beautiful musicians join me on that. Fritz Lewick on drums and Joel Gottschalk on bass, and of course the amazing Fred Mandel on organ and stuff. And I can't say enough about Fred, because he's I don't want to say he's an unsung hero, but he really is. I think you and I have talked about it before.
Yeah.
But he's a real inspiration to me. So I was thankful that he could be on this song.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you.
How many of these songs are going to make it to the live set?
Well, that's a great question. We're working on it, and in the live setting, we're just a trio. So it does, you gotta approach some of the songs a little differently.
Sure.
So right now, we've definitely worked up about 75% of them. I guess that's about 7 or 8 songs, and I think some of them feel like they're just like immediate, and other ones are like, yeah, that one's feeling pretty good. Maybe we'll work on that for another couple weeks, and then we'll bring it into the live show. So there's definitely going to be a good number of them in the live show.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them are a little more difficult. If I had a second guitar player or an organ, it might free me up to do different things, which might help the songs. You got more flexibility at that point. But when it's a trio, it's kind of like, yeah, it's all right. Who's going to play that hook? Who's playing that head? Well, I can't. So it's definitely it's interesting to see what works best in a trio format.
But that's fun too, because then for the listener like me, I love that, to see what the new interpretation of the music will be. That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the song Lady Love Divine, and that's got a lot going on in the recording.
Yeah.
And so we've been trying to figure out, what are we going to do with that live, and how are we going to do it? And so, part of it is like trying a different tuning. So trying to drop D tuning and trying a little bit of a different approach. And then Sam, who's playing bass, he's adjusting his approach, or maybe he doesn't come in till later. And so it's kind of, we don't have to be married to the studio version in the live setting. That's what kind of gives it a whole other second life,
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. You think there'll be any Texas dates?
Yes. We are really trying hard to, we were hopeful to come out to the Dallas show again this year, but we have done it a few times in the last few years. So I don't think we'll be out this year, but I'm hopeful. My friend Glenn was mentioning, he was talking about a couple of venues in Austin that he knows that he was going to help, maybe put up a good word. And so maybe we'd come through and do a few shows regionally. But it's right now, it's all in-house. I'm not working with an agent in the US. We're just doing it here from home. So it's sometimes it's hard to get a call back.
Well, that's another thing too, is the clubs are in bad shape.
That's what I'm hearing.
That they're in bad shape. So I don't know. It's interesting, as beautiful and fun and interesting this digital domain that we're all in is, and useful, and the way we can communicate with each other. At the same time, we're losing our connection to live experience, being in front of each other. That's a problem. So I'm hoping somewhere we're gonna find our Taoist nature and begin and try and strike a balance.
I think that's really well said, Mark. I think for all of this way that we connect digitally, we are also losing some of the in-person connection, and I don't think there's any substitute for a live musical experience, or a live dance experience, or a live whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
Something artistic that you see in person versus watching on your phone.
Absolutely.
I just, watching a YouTube video of Hendrix versus if we were in person seeing Hendrix.
Yeah.
I think I just don't, I would think we'd probably be concussed from the experience live, whereas on our phone, it's still amazing. But and I think, as we mentioned, we talked a little bit about earlier in the conversation, just the ripple effects following what we've all been living through the last 3-4 years.
Oh yeah.
It's and so you've got a band, let's say from the Northeast, and they're like, yeah, let's go do a tour down in Texas, in the area. And great, what do the gigs pay? Well, they're going to pay $400 a night. And you're thinking, great, well, $400 a night, the Airbnb is $400,
right.
Let alone the flight, let alone the rental vehicle,
the gas,
the food,
right,
the band, and it's just.
Yep.
It's getting harder and harder.
It really is. For bands that are not superstars. Like for Beyonce's cool. That's going to be okay. But for everybody else, it's it's a struggle. It's a struggle.
It is. Yeah. It's getting harder and harder. Yeah.
With the record, I know this is an impossible question, and I really shouldn't ask it, but I'm going to anyway. With the record, do you have a song? I mean, it's like trying to choose with your children. It's like Sophie's Choice here. Do you have a song? Do you have a song that it really stands out for you as the song? Like, say, hey, I want you to hear my new record. This is the song that will tell you what my new record's about.
Oh man,
that's tough, right?
Well, there's some that are definitely. I guess. I mean, I really liked Lady Love Divine. I just thought that was kind of fun and upbeat. Yeah. But that's kind of got definitely its own lane on the album, because a lot of the album is a little bit heavier material. So I would say between that and maybe something like maybe Intuition or It's Over Now. One of those, something that's a little bit more, a little bit more dynamic. Because not to say that the other ones that are heavy aren't. I mean, those are like right up front, in your face, 3 minutes long. Right. And I think some of the other ones, just a different dynamic flavor.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Shows how you can really stretch.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah. Oh, you do.
Well, thanks, man.
So, do you have? We're gonna wrap it up. But do you have a song you want to go out on?
Oh man. Well, thank you for asking. Let's. Well, what are we going to end on a high note, or we're going to be chilling?
I don't know. We came in on a high note. Let's go out chilling.
All right. Well, let's go out on Intuition.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Okay, great. That's wonderful. Philip, thank you. It's such a joy to talk to you. I really enjoy our conversations.
Mark, the feeling's mutual. Thank you so much. And, thank you for having me, for making room, all of the above. It's a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck on the tour. Good luck with the Potato tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's the best sounding room in LA, in my opinion.
It's intimate.
Yeah, it's really intimate. It's amazing that it sounds so good considering the way it's laid out, right? Isn't that weird?
It's really, it is really a special spot.
It really is. There's mojo over there for sure.
Yeah, thankful to be playing.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy the show, enjoy the tour, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Mark. I look forward to it too. You be well and play on as well. Go get them.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Check out Guitar Radio Show on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, guitarradioshow.com, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Find Guitar Radio Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, if you like the artists you hear on Guitar Radio Show, don't just stream their music, buy it.
GRS Productions.